Jon and Ash, I find myself here once again having a big old bone to pick with both of you. How is it that every time this game is shown or playable, I'm somehow not there?
You weren't in Germany for some reason.
I can't believe it.
You're never in Germany. I'm always saying, come to Germany, be in Germany, and you're never there.
Jon's been saying that since I was like 4 years old.
To be fair, the fault is really with science. Scientists need to just get off their ass and invent teleportation already. Like, come on.
Yeah,
what are they doing over there?
It must be easy. It must be easy. Anyway, Brandon, what are we talking about here?
You two got to play the first playable instance of Monster Hunter Wilds, which is incredibly exciting for me, and I want to know what you guys saw. So, starting with you, Jon, just kind of in general, what did the demo consist of?
Well, can we first just start by saying that the demand for this game is so far above, I think, what anyone realizes. The line was basically the entire, on the first day at least, it was the entire like convention hall of that place. They made it a bit neater other days by wrapping it around like the Monster Hunter events. It wasn't just taking up the entire hall. But there were signs there being like, wait time, 8 hours. And people were there.
8 hours, yeah.
They were there with like their fold-out chairs, waiting to play this game, and yeah, this was the biggest game of the show, no doubt. But yeah, this demo, so Ash and I got to play together, side by side, and we were linked together, playing, I guess, like online together. And we were spawned in the hub, and we got to leave and go out into the big wild world with this big expanse. And we were tasked with taking down Doshaguma. Is that how you pronounce his name?
Doshaguma.
Yeah, the alpha Doshaguma to be exact, because there are smaller regular Doshaguma as well.
Yeah, and so yeah, you leave the camp and you just kind of just seamlessly walk out into the world, and it's so living. There's so many monsters everywhere just doing their thing, and if you want to, you can just go and take down the big alpha, or you can just explore and just do whatever you like. But of course, we quite soon went down to take him down. And Ash, like, what was your experience though? Because we were playing adjacently, but we weren't playing like next to each other the entire time. So did you just jump down and start fighting, or were you chilling out a bit first?
Well, I chilled out a bit first to like swap my weapon loadout at base camp, so you can go into the tent and swap out weapons. I ended up equipping dual blades and a heavy bowgun. Because the other times I've played Monster Hunter, I've always preferred using the dual blades as melee weapons, so I stuck with that this time. And then right after I switched out my weapons, I basically just went right out into the titular wilds, as it were. And I mostly I think you and I stuck close to each other when we were fighting, but then when we weren't fighting, we kind of went off on our own ways to explore. And it is, as Jon said, seamless. You just go out into the world. There is no quest begin marker and then a loading screen. It's like you go out into the world, and then the quest doesn't actually begin until you land your first blow on the target monster. And that's when the quest actually begins.
That's so exciting to me.
There was one seamless thing that we did too before all this. We went in the options menu. And,
yes, that's right.
Hidden quite deeply in there. So you go to control settings, because Brandon was like, I think I saw Gyro in the settings. And we're like, what? So we followed his advice, went into the settings, and we didn't see Gyro in there. And so I was like, Ash, can you see Gyro? And you were like, Jon, this is page 1 of 5. So I use R2 to go through the settings, and Gyro's like one of the last ones. And so when you're aiming a gun, you can just start moving your controller like as if it's like Tears of the Kingdom or Splatoon or whatever. And it just works like that. So whenever you're aiming something, Gyro can be the camera, which is brilliant for aiming a weapon.
I'm so happy to hear that, because one of the biggest things for me about Monster Hunter Rise was, because it was on a Nintendo platform, Gyro was something that was a focus for them. So you could use Gyro to aim your wire bugs, you could use it to aim your weapons, and that's not something that was in Monster Hunter World. So to have a more like, I don't want to say hardcore console, the other crowd kind of console, have a Monster Hunter there. I was very afraid that Gyro was just not going to be in the game, but I'm so happy to hear that it's still here.
It's always nice when PS5 adapts it, and if you're playing Wilds and you've got either a PS5 or a Series X, I think you're probably better off going PS5 just for that Gyro, and it's not just for aiming a gun. So in Wilds you can aim, like you can focus on specific areas of the monster, and as you're battling, they'll get weak points.
Yep.
And using Gyro, it's very easy to just sort of match up and hit those weak points.
Okay, I was not expecting focus mode to have gyro support. That's actually really cool.
And this was something that they actually showed off, I believe, for the first time during our hands-off demo at Summer Game Fest a couple of months ago. So those of you who have seen that video will know that, yes, I previewed the game with a hands-off demo at Summer Game Fest and then talked to Brandon about it. And to give some context for those of you who have seen that video from a couple of months ago, what Jon and I played here was kind of a version of the hands-off demo from Summer Game Fest. So that same desert environment that you see in that first trailer, that's where we played. The Alpha Dashaguma that they were hunting at Summer Game Fest, we were now hunting at Gamescom. So just to give a little context for those who've been following our Monster Hunter Wilds coverage thus far. But I have to say, personally, and as you know, Brandon, my experience with Monster Hunter is relatively limited. So I'm not speaking necessarily from a place of expertise here, but the focus mode and wound system was by far my favorite part of the combat when Jon and I played. Like, I loved trying to focus in on and hit the wounds on monsters that would appear after you attack them a certain number of times in the same area of their body. Obviously, doing so can open up the wounds even more and do more damage than just a regular attack on anywhere else in their body would.
Yeah, and it's pretty important because, like, in previous Monster Hunters, sometimes I just feel like I'm wailing on an enemy and not really doing much. But now it feels there's a more tangible feeling of damage with this system. So maybe if you've not quite clicked with Monster Hunter before, this might be the mechanic that sort of pushes you over.
Yeah, a big element of Monster Hunter, and this has been around since Monster Hunter 1 in 2004, but where you hit the monster and the type of weapon you use on it matters. It changes the amount of damage you do. If you're going to use a blunt weapon like a hammer, hitting a monster on the head is going to do more damage. You can eventually knock it out by doing that. If you're using a bladed weapon, attacking things like wings and tails, you're going to do more damage. So having something like this focus mode and wound system makes that more tangible, more visible to a player. So I think people who are new to Monster Hunter will have an easier time making that connection, because Monster Hunter famously does not tell you very much. You're kind of just left to your own devices, and you have to figure it out on your own. But it's nice that there's a little bit of signposting here, as well as some new attacks that go along with the whole system.
Yeah, and we've also got our Ridey Boys, an evolution of Rise's Ridey Boys. These are like chocobos. What's the official name for these guys?
Sacred.
Yeah.
They're sacred. And you can change your weapon when riding them. They have like a little backpack, so if you in previous games you're stuck with one big weapon, but you can sort of change between a gun or a sword while riding them. So they double as like an equipment load. So it's cool for that too.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead, Brandon.
I was just gonna say I like the changes in that regard. Monster Hunter World and Rise were the first games to allow you to change your weapon mid-hunt, but you had to go back to camp to do it.
Yeah.
But with Wilds' focus on staying out in the field, not necessarily going back to town after a quest, just having access to another weapon that you can quickly pull out and start using just means that you can spend more time out in the wilds and just experiencing the world of Monster Hunter, which is something that I've always wanted.
Yeah.
And it's really... So you got Ash.
Oh, it just and that element really landed in like a sense of scrappiness to it for me. Like, I really liked the kind of dynamic element of like when you and I were fighting the Alpha Dashaguma Jon, and then it would like get wounded to a certain degree, so it would limp off and try to escape. And it's pretty fast, right? Even if it's wounded, so you gotta like on the fly stop attacking, call your secret, and then just basically head off in pursuit, and then fight it in a new environment where there may be new hazards waiting, either both for you or the monster, and things that you can use in the environment to affect the fight. And as you kind of said at the beginning, this is really when it feels like the world is truly alive, like the world is just as much of a character as the monster that you're fighting, right? And it's just constantly alive, and everything's changing around you, which can also change the conditions of battle.
Yeah, it's a mechanic that works here quite differently to Rise, because Rise, while still having that sort of seamless sandbox, it's a much smaller sandbox, and so being able to just get on and go through this vast world while running around and chasing all these monsters is crazy. And it's a really dynamic world too. Like sometimes when we were just wailing on that big monster, the time of day would change. There was like a thunderstorm at one point, a sandstorm, so you really get all this spectacle going on while you're fighting. And because it's the alpha, other Doshagumas would join in and start trying to attack us too. So sometimes you either want to, do you want to take them on too, or do you want to run away from them? There's a lot of different options. It's just such a dynamic battle.
Yeah.
There's always been the kind of hunter-gatherer aspect of Monster Hunter, gathering being a really important part, but the world itself never felt like a threat to the player. So I love the direction that Wilds is taking by making this living, breathing world also a dangerous place to be. You can be out in the world and see monsters interact with each other just independent of what you're doing. You might see a pack of monsters just get into a fight, and you don't want to get mixed up in that. Or, like you said, a thunderstorm might roll in, and now you're in danger. I love that element. For me, Monster Hunter has always been primarily about, playing with friends, but also basking in the world itself, and it seems like they are tripling down on that element here.
Yeah, for sure. And once the Doshaguma was taken down, I thought, okay, the demo's going to end now, right? But it was actually on a timer, so you can do as much as you want within that time limit. And once that ended, we went to wail on another monster entirely. And the name escapes me. I'm not sure if you remember the name of this monster, Ash.
I don't, unfortunately.
Okay.
Because I know there was one other we fought after the Alpha Doshaguma, but the name escapes me, unfortunately.
Was it Ray Dow?
It might have been.
It was more like a reptilian monster.
Oh, I'm not sure which one that one is then. It might be a small monster.
So we haven't got the details for that one, but yeah, we took down the Doshaguma and then just started wailing on this one immediately. And it was just this seamless, quest finished, and then quest started. You finish one, you're straight onto the other without any downtime. And you can do what you want in the world between that time, whether you want to go straight on to wailing on that monster, or if you want to go and collect resources or whatever else. I just love that we could just do that, right off the bat.
For me, Monster Hunter has always been the ultimate hangout game, and the fact that the game does not strip you away back to camp, after a hunt is over, that's perfect. I could just get in a call with 3 of my friends, and we could just go off and do our own things for the whole time we're playing, but just knowing that we're all there, experiencing the same world together, this is literally what I've always wanted.
Well, yeah, it sounds exactly like it is. Obviously, it's going to be right up your alley because it's Monster Hunter, but just, hearing you talk about it, it's sounding like they're making a lot of the changes tweaks and additions that you personally were hoping for.
Yeah, at the end of Monster Hunter World Iceborne, they added a map called the Guiding Lands, which is an expanding area that features several different biomes that you can just stay in and continuously hunt monsters. They'll keep spawning. You can go back to camp, refresh your items, but you don't have to leave.
Right.
And that felt like the beta for what would become this.
Yeah.
So I was definitely hoping that this was the direction they were going, and I'm glad to see that they did.
I think Ash will probably mention this too, but this is an early version of the game. It's not finished, but performance was not. Performance was not where you expect it to be. It was definitely quite framey at times, and there were moments, especially when it got really busy with lots of monsters on screen, where you can feel that it's not running where it should be. But it looks really good, though. It's a very pretty game.
Definitely. Very framey, and textures for far off land masses were pretty rough at times, but I'm not personally concerned at all. This is obviously very much mid development, but that's fine.
Yeah, and Monster Hunter is, at least with the last couple of games, have been games that have pushed hardware a little harder than they can probably handle. Monster Hunter Rise running on Switch, it was only 30 FPS, didn't push up to 60, but the fact that game ran was kind of a miracle on its own.
Yeah.
Monster Hunter World's a whole nother story. That game shouldn't exist, but it does.
But I'm not sure there's much more you want to say about that, Ash. We had a good time, and there are lots of different components that just worked really well together. And the fact that Gyro's in there alone, that kind of elevates it quite a bit higher in my book.
Yeah.
I guess one question I have for you too, since you haven't played a lot of Monster Hunter, I was curious, how did the difficulty feel? Obviously, you're probably not familiar with your weapon combos and how they work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But did it feel like you were being pushed? I'm curious.
I definitely had to utilize my items quite a bit. There was a lot of healing. I tried to use any traps that I had. But I didn't feel like I was ever on the brink of death, though. And I think working together helped that, because we're sort of aggroing the monster and getting our chances to hit it when we could. But I didn't feel crazy pushed by this one.
Same, and that also might just be how they tooled it for the demo, because often at convention demos they'll make it so that the player has an easier time than they would in the final game, right, when playing at home. But yeah, same as John. Like I definitely had to use a couple of healing items, but I didn't come close to running out. And even the Alpha Dashiguma, when it hit me, didn't do that much damage relative to my max HP. So I was never really in any serious danger of dying. I had to use a whetstone once. I utilized a couple of different traps like John, but yeah, I wasn't feeling particularly pushed, but I kind of got the feeling that that was intentional for the demo, and that the game itself is going to be harder.
Yeah, this isn't going to be like one of the most outrageous monsters in the game. I'm sure there's going to be many that push much harder than this one.
Yeah, I was curious, just because, something I mentioned before we even started recording, Monster Hunter is a notoriously difficult game to demo.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on in that game, and it's already not telling you most of it. So it's hard to get a rounded view when you're playing it for the first time. But I'm glad you guys were able to defeat the Doshiguma. I was wondering how that would go.
We didn't even find him. We're just wandering around going, where is he? It's just a big field. we managed it. We managed it.
Good. One thing I do want to mention is when I went off and explored on my own, I was really impressed by the scale of the world, like the scale of the environment. Like I saw these giant sand dunes in the distance that were way taller, like they towered above me, and I was thinking, okay, there's probably going to be like, my character won't be able to run up to the top of that dune, or there's going to be some invisible wall. No, I went up to the top of the highest dune and saw the entire world around me, and I was like, okay, this is cool. The sense of verticality and scale in the environments is really, really impressive. And just as a one-off thing, I think I found the name of the monster we were talking about before, the serpentine monster, and I think it's the Balahara was the other one.
Oh, the worm.
Yeah, the worm, I guess.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I think that's the other one that we hunted, yeah.
When you went exploring, you and I, like after defeating the Doshiguma and we started that battle, I think we then took down the other monster, I'm pretty sure. And we went our separate ways. I was looking at your screen, and you were in this like sandy dune.
Yeah.
And I was in like this icy looking area. I did get to one point where I think I could have kept going, but the on-screen text said like, you probably shouldn't go this way yet, or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I think that might have been a demo restriction, but like that's the only instance of a wall that I saw.
It's interesting too, because like they've been kind of cagey about how the world actually works. Like we weren't sure if the different locales would be separated by loading screen, if you had to like jump into one and then play, but they revealed the Scarlet Forest with the third trailer, and on the website it says that you just go down the river in the plains to enter the Scarlet Forest. So I think that wall you may have encountered is a temporary barrier, because I believe the locales are connected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, very impressive, and clearly for a lot of people this was the game of the show. This was the reason they came to Gamescom. And there was a point where like we were looking at the line at like 12 midday.
Yeah.
And the line said like 8-hour wait. It's like, well, it's going to be closed by then, right? Because this hall will not be open that long, but people were still pushing their luck and spending their entire day waiting for Monster Hunter. I did speak to some of the team at Capcom running it, and they said that they let people play if they'd been there for like all day and they were waiting. So I think people got their chances.
Nice.
Yeah, but it really was wild seeing the turnout for this.
It warms my heart so much I've been a Monster Hunter fan for like 16 years. And the pool of players outside of Japan was so small back then. So for me to just get to witness the response to the game is incredibly validating. And I'm just excited for all the people who are going to try Monster Hunter for the first time.
Yeah, and like, World is the biggest Capcom game ever. It's
sure
like the
is.
best-selling one.
Yeah.
It's not niche anymore. It's not even close.
It makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, I hope we could convey some of this to you, because obviously we're not the mega fan like you, but we had a good time. I hope that we've lived up to your expectations somewhat.
I'm glad. I tried to inhabit your bodies with my spirit while you were there, and the connection didn't quite land. It was just a little too far.
Well, next time you just have to come to Gamescom with us when they're demoing Monster Hunter Wilds 2 or whatever the next one is.
Just tell Capcom to come to me.
Okay, we'll do.
Okay, we'll do that.
We'll get right on that, yeah.
Good. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your experience with me about Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm now more upset than I was at the beginning of this discussion. No, but I really appreciate you guys getting the chance to play and talk to me about it. I'm very excited for the game to come out. We still don't have a release date, but I don't think we're too far from knowing when that'll be. But until then, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Keep the games good and the vibes greater. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.